Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Those Who Give a Damn host. I am your host, Dr. Duvalier Malone, and today we're doing something a little different. Most week, I am talking to elective official, policy experts, and community leaders. But this week, we are talking to HBCU students. We talk a lot about students on this podcast, and so today we have the unique opportunity to spotlight student voices. So too often people speak about students instead of listening to them. So today we're changing that. Jordan Storey is joining me from Howard University, and he is going to walk us through some things that are happening on campus at Howard University. And so often in DC, we see these storylines before every single semester. And today I brought someone who's actually experiencing it. So Jordan, welcome to Those Who Give a Damn podcast, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, Jordan, I want to jump right in. Tell my audience what's happening at Howard University and why you all are speaking up and speaking out about the unenrollment and the financial aid situation that is happening. I know last year there were some headlines at Howard University about
Mhm.
financial aid, about unenrolling students as well. And it came right before the president of Howard University at that time stepped down. So, walk my audience through what happened, what's happening, and how we can help you.
So, what currently is happening is that there are a multitude of students, primarily incoming freshmen, who yesterday we received an email saying that there was an unpaid balance stating that they could no longer hold our spot at the university and that we were essentially unenrolled. Now, that being said, we had been told, from financial aid that we could, wait for external scholarships. There's military benefits and there's also student loans. Me personally, I am someone who is awaiting external scholarships. And so when that email came along with many others, I kind of took it as maybe this is a scam. Maybe this isn't real. But then once I started seeing a lot of other students say that they were also experiencing the same thing, I really felt scared, to be completely honest. Because if I'm gonna be completely honest, college is a very scary environment. It's a big change. And for a big change as it is adapting to a new environment, what's even scarier is not knowing if you're going to be able to continue your career at college, at this university. And so, it was really frightening. So I decided to go and post a video yesterday along with a fellow other of my peers who had also been experiencing the same thing, just to advocate for the situation that has been going on because it's not okay. And it also kind of gives, HBCUs somewhat of a bad rep, if that makes any sense, because primarily for Howard, they are known for the Howard runaround, or it's really a game of telephone rather than giving direct answers when needed. But when it comes to taking money and unenrolling students from the school because of an unpaid balance, they were very quick about it. And I thought that the response, while I appreciated that they acknowledged their errors, I also didn't think it was the appropriate response, if that makes sense, because after, many students had advocated for their personal situations, they posted a clip on their social media page, and it was a QR code and then also an email for who to contact. But this was posted very late at night. And the offices are closed. They have their own personal lives to live. So do we. So not everyone is going to be able to get, that resources that they need at that specific time. And it kind of felt that a lot of other people who weren't the university directly were doing a lot more work, if that makes sense. Now, I can't speak for Howard if, they have more things, lined up to help the students. But I personally thought that maybe putting out a statement from, the financial aid office or from the brochure's office, that I feel like that, along with the email for any further questions, would have been a more acceptable response.
Absolutely. Tell me more about this Howard runaround. Um, I've been seeing it
Yeah.
trending under you all
Yeah.
comments, and so students are responding to that. What is the Howard
So
runaround?
yeah. So for instance, I'll give you my personal situation. So for the Howard runaround is basically where students are placed in a situation. It could be where they are looking for resources, looking for scholarships, really looking for any sort of information. And rather than getting a direct answer from one area, like of work, or a specific individual, we're told, go talk to this other area of people, go talk to this group of people. And then it kind of just becomes this whole game of like a scavenger hunt, and then also a game of telephone, because the students and the parents of the students are being told, oh, well, let's just say the financial aid office told me to come down to you guys, but then this office is saying, no, you have to go back to financial aid. And it can become really confusing, very overstimulating and stressful. So I feel like the more of the hard runaround is that students are ending up doing a lot more work than what these specific offices are like what they're meant for. So for instance, for the scholarships, there was a threshold that my parents stated that I needed to meet if I wanted to go to Howard. And Howard had given me their all access scholarship. It was a decent scholarship. I'm grateful for the scholarship, but it wasn't enough. So we took a tour visit, I want to say back in April, and they said, like, you go to the financial aid office. So we went to the financial aid office and we asked, like, is there any way that, like, we can negotiate tuition? Can we get any more additional scholarship money? And they said that the scholarship money that they deemed that they gave me was appropriate. And, that wasn't enough for me. And I'm like, I really want to go to this school. So I'm going to do everything I can. So, thinking that the financial aid office is like, responsible for scholarships and, the financial aid for students, you would think that they would be able to go and give me like, some scholarship or at least some money. But that didn't work out. And they decided to go and relay me to my advisor. And my advisors had stated that the transcript that he saw was worthy of the all access scholarship, which he listed out all the scholarships that they had. They had like, a presidential scholarship, they had like a dean scholarship. And I just feel like for students who like thrive in school and like go above and beyond, get good grades, who are like very involved with their community, the scholarship, while I'm grateful for it, kind of felt a little bit like a smack in the face, if I'm being completely honest, because I've put so much time and energy and hard work into pursuing my education to the higher level. And I know that there's also other kids out there who are in different financial circumstances that are more needing of those scholarships. But, it also kind of did hurt that I wasn't given a direct answer. So I was told to go for financial aid, and then for financial aid to my advisor. And then my advisor was like, well, oh, you can go and apply for external scholarships. And so it's like from one place to the other to the other. So that's where the whole term at the Howard runaround comes from.
Absolutely. And it's amazing that you say that. I am a three-time HBCU graduate. I went to Alcorn State University, Jackson State University, and the University of the District of Columbia here in Washington.
Hmm.
I know that runaround as well. And
Yeah.
so a lot about my podcast, I like to talk about solutions. I'm looking at you, Jordan, and you are indeed the future. You are the future. What is your recommendations to leaders? Because this podcast is going to be viewed not just by Howard University community here in Washington, D.C., but it's going to be viewed around the HBCU community. What is your recommendation to administrators to make your transition into these historical Black colleges and universities easier and less stress? Because you acknowledged earlier that it's a lot of stress. What are your recommendations to HBCU leaderships?
I would personally say that for me personally, something that I would recommend that leaders at these universities should do is kind of, I would say, put more transparency and like, integrity with like, the whole college process. Because like I said, it can be very daunting on the individual. Like, we're locking in on, our grades, getting our letters of rec, and applying like for these scholarships. I just for Howard specifically, I feel like there's a lot of like gray area in terms of like, where am I supposed to find certain information? So I feel like a more, updated website might help, like, to help, like, locate students towards like, the materials that they need. But also I feel like the tuition, when it comes like to terms of tuition, that if one specific area is saying you can wait to pay as long as like, your benefits, your loans, and your external scholarships come in, that all parties should be on the same page. So because at the end of the day, we don't want it to be like, well, one party said that I could wait, and then this party said, well, we have no evidence and we have no proof that they said it. So making sure that everything is crystal clear, because I feel like for this specific situation, that's where a lot of miscommunication and error really sparked the whole heat of the situation, was lack of communication and transparency. Um, And I just feel like that, yes, students and their families should be working to make sure that they can have a smooth and easy transition to college. But I also think that it's the college's responsibility as well. Like with this big of a situation, if I was a parent of a rising senior in high school, I would be very hesitant about my student applying to Howard this year because over several hundreds of students were unenrolled. And yes, students are slowly getting back their classes back, but this is like it's really, really scary. So I just feel like as long as if they're gonna to unenroll students, then there needs to be an automatic refund for people because I know that there's a lot of people who contributed money just like as like, somewhat of a down payment or pay just part of the tuition fee. And I just feel like that if we're going to unenroll these kids or make such a big of a move such as this, that it needs to be done way earlier in the day when offices are open at all times because posting a message, posting a barcode and an email address at 10:42 p.m. when people are on different time zones, when people are sleeping, when people are panicking and the offices are in the process of being shut down, that's not helpful because all it's just going to do is just make the situation bigger than it need be, and then the situation won't be resolved. So transparency and integrity are a must and a necessity when it comes to the transition to college that I believe that college leaders and administration should continue to adopt if it hasn't been adopted already.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this, Jordan, because a lot of times when things bubble up to this, I've been in this a while and I've attended, as I
Mhm,
said, 3 HBCUs. And normally when you go to the public, it's because your voices are not being heard. And so I want to ask you this. Do you feel like your voice is being what was being heard, and that's why you all took to social media? And I'm seeing and hearing now that some students are being back enrolled. So
mhm.
did you feel like your voice wasn't being heard at first, and that's what took you to social media?
Would say, yeah, yes. I feel like it had been a series of events, and this was just like, the cherry on top. I feel like, there's a lot of gifted students that are coming to this university that have dreams and aspirations of attending this university and pursuing, like, careers outside of Howard. But, like I said, with the Howard runaround, with, the lack of information, I felt that as though that my voice wasn't being heard. I feel that as though the university was very quick to go and take money from me to pay for this tuition for them to go and enroll, me and some other students. I kind of feel like a term that I've heard a lot is the word money hungry. And I just find that for a school that has said that that they lack funding or they're very limited to the amount of scholarships and aid that they can give out. I just find it very ironic how long and daunting the process is to go and get help, but how quick it is for opportunities such as attending this university to be taken away. Like for instance, there's an individual that I know, she's a content creator with me for Howard, and her move-in was this weekend. And she as of yesterday, she had been unenrolled and she is very active in the external scholarships. And thankfully, she has had her classes, she's been re-enrolled. But there's just that feeling of uncertainty is just very scary. For me, I had insurance policies booked, I had plane tickets booked, I had my refrigerators rented and everything. So I had everything ready to go. And the fact that that could possibly be stripped away just seems it just feels scary. But I also feel like the lack of resources was also, in my opinion, I feel like highly unacceptable. Now, given this scenario, it did spiral so quickly. So I can't fully blame them for the resources that they did give out. Like they gave email addresses for everything. But I just felt as though there could have been more work that they could have done on their end in terms of helping students figure out their financial situations because everyone coming into Howard is coming from different walks of life. So I just feel like just patience and like I said, integrity and transparency is just needed. And I felt as though we have so many adults in our lives. Our parents are still funding, our college experience for us. Some of them may not be, but for a majority, a lot of our parents are contributing to the universities. And at the end of the day, a majority of us are adults. So, like, we're in the real world. And in the real world, we're not going to have someone who's always going to be, be speaking up for us. Like, we either have to learn the easy way and, like, take initiative if that's what we feel, or we have to learn the hard way with, like, missed opportunities and, the feeling of, like, missing out. So I felt as though it was very admirable, and I have a lot of respect for, like, my freshman class, but I also have a lot of respect for, like, the alumni and for, the student advisors and for a lot of current students that are also at Howard right now, because they were very quick to go and alert, like, students and, like, local news stations and social media channels, just, like, to spread awareness, because this is a very important chapter in our life, and for the possibility that that could be stripped away, like I said earlier, is very scary. So I just felt as though that our voices were heard, and that Howard, I kind of could see that they could take this as somewhat of like a wake up call, because it'd be one thing if, like, we had already been students at Howard. We haven't set foot on campus at all. So we haven't been there for like a year. Like, we're just getting ready to move in. And so I think that's very admirable. And I think that a lot of other, colleges and HBCUs should take this as like a learning lesson, that if we feel that, our voices aren't heard, it never hurts to go and advocate for oneself. Because at the end of the day, if you never advocate for yourself, then you can't be frustrated if, like, if the situation is never resolved. So, like I said, a lot of other students
Absolutely.
have slowly been able to get their classes back. But I just feel like as though for a lot of students, and specifically, like, this new generation of students with, like, social media and the digital age being at such a high, that there should be, like, no hesitation with taking a stand for oneself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I am so proud of you all. When I saw it and they alerted me on it, I had to have you all on to give you a platform because I understand those nuances. When I was in college, same thing happened to us when we were in school, and we protested administrations and we demanded change. The beautiful thing about you all have social media now. And so I am very
Yeah.
proud of you. Don't ever allow anyone to mute your voice because your voice matter. You are the future. You are going to be leading institutions when you finish Howard
Mm.
University. And so I just admire your tenacity. And I look forward to talking to one of your other colleagues today on the podcast. So I just want to make sure that you know that we are standing 10 toes behind you for using your voice for change. That is so important. So, so very important. I want to ask you this, Jordan. Where are you now in the process? Are you enrolled in the are you back enrolled? Are you good to go now? And what helped you compete?
So something that I have noticed with my situation, that I also think that others should do as well, is make sure that you have documentation in writing, whether that's emails, whether that's receipts. Make sure that you have everything that you need written in Word or whatever, because it can be very word of mouth in these situations. We need, like, direct evidence, direct proof that, like, we paid this balance at this specific time. I've paid my insurance policy. I've paid for, like, my refrigerator and for my microwave. So I have the receipts here. You've billed me, and this is coming from Howard, like, for my tuition and for my meal plan. Like, Howard has billed me. So there is digital proof that they have taken, like, that we have paid for my tuition and for my meal plan and a lot of other things as well. So I just feel like that as long as students have everything documented, I mean everything. I mean, it could be the smallest thing as just an email, just as long as you have written proof, that will be, like, your biggest ally. So for me, my classes, I am enrolled in the university. So thank goodness that, that
Very
I'm
good.
no longer affected by the unenrollment. But so yes, I am enrolled, but, like, just be patient. Yes, this is 100% on Howard, and this is their responsibility. But also, we need to, like, something that I've learned is that we should always give people grace, no matter how severe the situation has been. Yes, this is a very big situation and it's affecting a lot of people. But at the end of the day, the people that are working in these offices are humans just like me and you, and they are all deserving of grace and respect. So I feel like that's what a lot of people on social media were doing was, yes, they were advocating their frustrations. Yes, they were advocating their fears, but they were also wanting to do it in a respectful manner, which I think that is also why it helps basically solve the situation in a better and quicker way than if it was a more disrespectful tone coming from my and yes, I have every right to be disrespectful, to be frustrated, to really speak my mind. But, I don't want that to come and bite me later on. I don't want that bad energy. I don't want that bad karma. And I also want to use this platform, specifically this podcast, to also go and tell anybody else who is affected, who hasn't been enrolled yet. Please be respectful. Do not be disrespectful to these offices. That will only hurt your chances. And that's not me saying that I know for sure that that's going to happen, but I know that what goes around comes around. And I know that you wouldn't like to be treated disrespectfully. So just think about how other people on the other end would be receiving that too. They wouldn't want to be treated disrespectfully. Like they are trying their hardest. This is a very big and daunting situation. But at the end of the day, you just have to be respectful and patient and graceful with these people because they're humans just like us and everyone is deserving of respect.
Absolutely. And I want to put the caveat as we close out, Jordan, that many historical Black colleges and universities have received a increase in enrollment. And particularly, we've saw that at the beginning of President Trump's administration
Hmm.
because young people were looking for a safe haven to go to. And so I would echo what you're saying is to give those historical Black colleges and universities grace because some of them are working with enrollment numbers that they've never
Hmm.
seen before. So we definitely
Yeah.
have to give them grace. Jordan, Jordan Story, I want to say to you that your future is bright and that
Thank you.
this won't be the first that we hear from you. I want you to tell everybody before I let you go, tell them again, your name, your major, and your aspirations when you finish Howard University.
All right. So my name is Jordan Story, and I am going to be an acting major at the Chadwick Boseman School of Fine Arts. And my aspirations after I graduate from Howard is to pursue my art for storytelling. I find it very interesting that, my last name is Story, like a book. And, I feel like as though it was my destiny to go and tell stories from my personal experience, but also others. So I would like, to take my work to, Hollywood and be an actor, but I would also like to go and be a screenwriter as well because I also value writing. That is one of my biggest safe havens, like for this specific situation. Yesterday I was writing in my journal about how afraid I was and how scared I was of what could possibly happen. But for me, storytelling is just it's one of my biggest passions and one of my biggest dreams. The fact that I get to go to Howard and get to go and study at the Chadwick A. Boseman School of Fine Arts, like, that is such a full circle moment for me because originally, I wanted to be president of the United States, but, in 2018, when Black Panther came out, noticed a full Black cast, there was someone who looked like me, like, it was just very inspiring, and then that's where I feel like a shift came, and I was like, "That's something that I want to do," so I felt as though that it was very inspirational to go to the same school that, my basically, my one of my biggest inspirations also attended, in the fact that they have since renamed the fine arts school after him, I felt was it's very admirable.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jordan. Let me tell you this. I am going
Thank
to
you.
save this interview. I am going to save this interview for sure because this won't be the first time that we hear Jordan's story. Jordan, thank you for raising your voice for change. Thank you for doing it with grace and dignity and respect. And again, your future is bright. And if you need anything here in Washington, we are here to support you. Again, thank you for joining Those Who Give a Damn podcast. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This was a really great and amazing opportunity.